Hey, did you need another drink? Welcome back to Real Talk, guys. This is just water, but today we're going to be talking about drugs and alcohol and the impact they can have on your mental health. Alright, everyone, so we're going to start by talking about what substances are out there. So we'll start with the two legal ones, which are smoking tobacco and alcohol. So these are legal once you turn 18. And can be easily accessible everywhere. I'm sure most of you know someone who's drunk alcohol or smokes. Then we move into the territory of illegal substances. So these can be called party drugs, and I'm just going to explain some of them to you. So we've got depressants. So these slow down your body. They can slow down your heart rate. They just generally slow your brain down, which means that you move slower, your reaction time's less, that sort of thing. So these include GHB, and then we've got marijuana, which you might know as cannabis, pot, weed, chuff. Then we've got stimulants. So these can elevate your heart rate, get you moving like, kind of like a buzz. And these include coke or cocaine, amphetamines, which you might have heard of as speed. And then we've got methamphetamines, which is ice and crystal meth. Then we've got hallucinogens. So these distort your perception of reality and can change how you think and what you can distort what's real and what's imaginary and that sort of thing. So that's LSD, which is acid, and MDMA, which would be known as ecstasy or E. So they're the substances that are out there. The thing is, because most of these drugs are illegal, there's no quality control. This means that you don't know how strong what you're taking is and what other substances might have been added to the pill or whatever you might be taking. So drugs and alcohol can change the way that your brain and body work. They change the balance of chemicals that help your brain to think, feel, create, and make decisions. If you're going through a tough time, it can be really tempting to use drugs and alcohol as a coping strategy. However, these are addictive substances and can cause or exacerbate, amplify, symptoms of depression and or anxiety. It's important to note that if you are experiencing mental health issues and are on antidepressants or anxiety medication or anything like that, drugs and alcohol impact the effectiveness of the medication that you're taking and can mean you have a different reaction to someone who may not be on medication. Let's talk about the effects of drugs and alcohol and how they can change your body. Drugs and alcohol affect the chemical messaging processes in your brain. In the short term, you can feel really good. You can not worry about what's going on in your life, you can think everything's funny, have a great time. On the other hand, you can feel unwell, you can vomit, you can be shaky, you can have headaches, you can be anxious, you can be confused and disorientated. There's also risk of physical injury. As I mentioned, it slows down your brain's processing system, so you're more likely to fall over. There's also issues with road accidents and violence. It can also change your emotions. So some people have a really good time, but other people feel really down and flat and depressed when they use substances. In terms of the long-term effects using can have on your body, physically, it can increase your risk of liver and cardiovascular disease, obesity, heart problems, lung problems, cancer, those sorts of things are all increased more or less depending on which drug or substance you're using. There's also an increased risk of mental health concerns, which is important to note. It can also impact your brain development because our brains don't stop developing till we're 25. That means my brain's not stopped developing yet. So, knowing all the effects and the different types of drugs that are out there, I'm going to talk about how to minimise harm if you decide to use any substance. So if, as I mentioned, number one, harm minimization. If you're taking prescription medication for your mental health, it's important to remember that alcohol and most illegal drugs interact with your medications and can reduce their effectiveness and increase the chance of side effects. It's a good idea to be with people that you trust. Just in case something goes wrong, you want people there that have got your back. Drink water. Set a limit on how much of the substance you'll take that night. I'm only going to have 2 drinks tonight, whatever that may be. And then work out how you're going to manage that. How are you going to make sure that you try and stick to that, those sorts of things. It's also really important to remember that if you or your friends are in trouble, you can call 000. It's the emergency services job to help you, not to dob you in. Their main priority is your safety. If you're concerned about your substance use, think about cutting down. Consider things like, why am I taking this? If I'm taking it to feel better, do I end up feeling worse? It can be really hard to stop taking drugs and drinking completely. However, it is better to stop completely rather than to cut back when you've become dependent on drugs or alcohol, your anxiety or depression is severe, you're having suicidal thoughts, or you've experienced physical health, personal, financial, or legal problems as a result of your drinking or drug use. So guys, these are just things to be mindful of. Just think about how much you might be drinking, how much you might be taking, how to do it a bit safer. Decide if you want to do it at all. It's okay not to want to drink and do drugs. That's okay. And it's okay to say no to a friend. So there's some services that can support people if you're worried about your drinking and drug use or someone else's. So Beyond Blue is where I got a lot of this information I've spoken about today from. YSAS, which is Youth Services and Advocacy, and they offer support for drug and alcohol usage. And we've also got Reach Out, who have online discussion forums where you can talk about how drugs and alcohol are impacting your life. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Leave a comment down below what you would like us to talk about next. We've got a few ideas, but if you've got something else, we'll chuck it in too. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.